weekend. Good morning, Rachel.
Good morning.
Joey.
Good morning, guys.
Joey's well rested.
I am. I got so much sleep last
And
night.
he's sporting quite the duck tie. I
This is,
really admire that tie.
You know,
That
I told
is
you all my suits come off Instagram. I got this off Instagram, and it's in honor of the duck
You're
hunters.
one of those people that you fall for the Instagram ads?
No, listen, I wear a less than $400 suit sitting on this couch, okay? They're affordable, and they fit me well. No, yeah, you're right.
And it's not only they're
not a
rubber.
duck.
They're
It's-
rubber duckies.
Yeah, they're rubber
They're-
ducky because
yeah.
you can't get a lot of mallards. You know, you can't go too on brand with it. But I got my turkey feathers over here, and it's in honor of duck season leaving and turkey season coming.
See what you're missing out on by not wearing a tie every day?
I know. I've missed out on duck season.
She's so upset.
I missed out on football
missed out.
season.
Just so you know, I did pitch for Charlie and I to have duck calls and to teach you how to blow a duck call, but
I love that.
we would violate the noise ordinance here in New York. I think.
But you know I love the Robertson family, so.
Yeah, well, they're
Now I'm gonna.
they're great. I talked to them yesterday. Took a bunch of veterans out hunting yesterday. So
Here?
no, down in Louisiana. They would
Oh,
phones,
they
you
did.
know, the
I
phones.
thought you did. I'm like, how did you get back from Louisiana?
They're-
All right.
In the Hudson River.
Got it.
It was an event.
There's some duck hunting over there.
Free trade has always been sort of the hallmark of conservatives, and this is another example
so
that Donald Trump is not your regular conservative, not your regular Republican, and he's got a very good argument here about all the ways that China, some other motive.
Right. Yes. Exactly. But in Latin America, you know, one of the things that Donald Trump cites is the fentanyl problem. That's a China thing as well. China and the Mexican cartels, with the permission of the Mexican government, which has done nothing to stop this either. And that is why Donald Trump is saying that. By the way, in terms of who will get hurt more in this like chicken game that we're playing, just to give you some context. Just Texas, the state of Texas GDP is $2.4 trillion, going to stand on the side of America. And at this point, Joey, we still have the economic upper hand in this. And Donald Trump knows it, and he's wielding it.
Yeah, I think it comes down to he campaigned on this. He made this promise early in the campaign. He still won the presidency through the Electoral College and the popular vote. So this isn't surprising Americans at all. I made the point yesterday that if you're going to America's problem, it's not their problem. They've done their part. And so that's kind of laughable. But then Mexico's president says if they really cared, they would attack the drug dealers on the streets. Part of me kind of laughs at that because we've seen what a war on drugs results in. But the other part of me says she is a little bit right because we don't lock anybody up anymore. We don't put people in jail for petty crimes. So maybe there is something to that, but I don't think that's the answer. Ultimately, these countries are just going to have to prove to President Trump that they're serious about helping with this issue. And I don't know what that looks like because we haven't seen it. But, you know, if he's still imposing the tariffs, they must not be doing much.
I think it's part of a greater plan. I mean, Charlie, you talked about China interfering in this hemisphere. And one of the things that Donald Trump has done, which is like music to my ears, is on day one, he's basically even before day one, by making Marco Rubio Secretary of State, somebody who absolutely cares about the Western Hemisphere and deeply understands how important it is that our neighborhood be under our control versus China's. And so now you're seeing Marco Rubio taking his first trip to Panama, where on day one, Donald Trump said, this is such a fundamental shift. The State Department under Barack Obama, under Joe Biden, was their relationship with Latin America was we're exporting abortion, climate change, and LGBTQ rights. That's what the State Department was involved in. Donald Trump saying, no, we're in the business now of business, commerce, American commerce, and securing the Western Hemisphere to America's interests.
And, of course, left the door wide open for China to come into those countries and take over in very, and by the way, long-term damaging ways for those countries. Because once you get indebted to China, you're kind of doomed. But, you know, Donald Trump looks at all of it, and I think the tariffs and I think Panama Canal, they're very similar tools in that Trump looks at this and says, wait a minute, we're the greatest, biggest, most powerful economy on the planet. I'm going to use that to my advantage to get things that work for my country. And so he's doing that with the Panama Canal because we send so much material through there. And he's doing it with tariffs because he knows that, that Canada or Mexico or China is going to go to their knees over.
They control the lot.
It is a very anti-establishment idea of all of these tools exist in the same toolbox. Years past would say, you know, we're going to fight a proxy war against China here, but we're not going to touch our economic relations because that, you know, there's an industry.
Just, as you said, Charlie, it's really easy to buy out, government officials. So they basically bought countries. They bought the mines, the ports, all kinds of infrastructure, and it's generational wealth for the politician who receives that kind of kickback from China. And so they sell out their country, and Donald Trump has to put an end to it.
And, you know, one of the wonderful things about it, also with Trump completely being willing to think outside the box and do something completely anti-establishment, is that it leaves Democrats on the side, and they're not able to, like, talk about any of it. They're completely lost in the wilderness.
Yeah.
They don't even, you know, it used to be, you would think that a guy like Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren would like some of this, you know, they claim to be anti-establishment themselves until RFK comes before them, and then they freak out and they lose their minds, especially when RFK points out that they get all this money from Big Pharma. But Democrats are completely, you know, lost right now. They had their annual meeting in which they selected a new DNC chair, Ken Martin. What I thought was interesting about this is they went with Ken Martin over the strenuous objections.
The Republican panel and saying, who wants to make America great again? And they all have to raise their hand.
You know, I hated this in the debates for the last 2 cycles. You know, raise your hand if you vow to do this or vow to. I'd rather hear your original idea, not do you pass some litmus test. But it just shows you they're not abandoning the idea that the best move they have to pull young and, I guess, vulnerable voters away from the middle or Trump is this division, the misogyny, racism. You know, I guess ageism will probably become a part of it at some point. But whatever kind of ism they can throw in there to say they just hate you because of your identity, when Republicans are largely saying we could care less about your identity. And I don't think they understand the difference between those two narratives yet. But I'd say all this with a moment of caution. No one could have predicted Donald Trump coming out of, I guess, really 2012. No one could have predicted, you know, everyone thought Jeb Bush was the leader of the Republican Party going into 2015. So as lost in the woods, in the wilderness as they may seem, it only takes one semi-brilliant person, you look at Obama, Donald Trump, to rally the troops when they're lost this way and desperate. I don't know that's going to happen. I don't know who that is. But you can't just sit here and say they're lost in the woods and Republicans can rest on their laurels for the next 4 years.
No. But I'm not sure this guy's going to lead them out.
No, he's not the.
Well, we'll see. I don't know much about it. Maybe he's going to raise a ton of money, and they'll be in a better spot. Although money didn't save them last time.
Yeah, exactly. No, and one of the wonderful things about Donald Trump is he has completely undone the magic of money in politics by beating. She outspent him by 3x.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I know.
And it's
so true.
Yeah.
By the way, it's like 20 times as much in the Hispanic spending.
Yeah.
And he had such a great.
When your commercials are that bad, it doesn't matter how much money you spend to show them, I guess.
Okay, so
to open up the morning with you. That's such a famous. He loves coming to Fox and Friends.
All I can think about is Todd Pyro's ripped pants every time I hear that song. You know he has those.
Todd and Adam just go off every time he comes on.
He framed those pants. He has those.
Really?
Yeah, or somebody framed them for him. It's the most Todd Pyro thing you.
Well, I started dancing and just fully humiliated my kids. They're so embarrassed. Like, don't ever do that again on a stage with Flo Rida.
Are you gonna dance, Charlie?
Yeah, this is part of the job description.
I'm not very smooth on the dance floor myself.
You're gonna pull a Brian Kilmeade on this, because you know what Brian Kilmeade. We all started dancing, and Brian Kilmeade, he pulled an Irish. He just disappeared.
Yeah, so the Irish exit is very important in dancing situations. I have no problem with that.
Yeah, well,
I embrace that.
Sometimes you can get away with it, and sometimes you can't. Charlie. just like with Pilates. Which, by the way, we're going to be talking about Pilates later in the show, because a lot of men are doing Pilates, and a lot of women want them out of the studio.
Oh,
we're going to talk about why.
Ruining. Listen, if they'll get out of the gym, we'll get out of the studio. How about that?
It has a lot to do with sweating. They said puddles of sweat. Get out of the Pilates studio.
Because men sweat too
more.
much?
Yeah, we'll talk about it, but. It'll be something. It'll be a challenge to your yoga Pilates journey.
Pilates.
The women.
Yes.
All right. we're going to move on to this because these are tough transitions.
They are.
Consequences.
It's just too funny.
We're going to move on to Venezuela,
All right.
which is in the news again because this time Donald Trump has been wanting Venezuela to take back illegal immigrants. But first, he made sure that we had American prisoners, hostages, I should say, held by the illegitimate Maduro government. And he said he negotiated to have them return with ambassadors.
Yeah, I am not tired of winning. I thought it was really interesting that when Grenell got off the plane and went up there, he was greeted by Maduro himself. And just from a statecraft standpoint, that's a big deal. You send your envoy, and then the president comes out.
Yeah,
it's kind of interesting.
But there was a lot of controversy around it.
Yeah, maybe not legitimizing dictators, but trying to overthrow or stage a coup or support those that are. At some point, you got to let people decide their fate for themselves and work with whoever comes out on top.
Well, make no mistake, the Venezuelan people are brave. They are fighting hard. Yeah. They are being led by, like, truly, outside of Donald Trump, the bravest person in the Western Hemisphere is Maria Corina Machado, who is basically the heart and soul of the opposition movement. She has come on Fox Noticias multiple times. She's come on this show as well. She's brave. There are definitely people from that side of in that movement who are not happy that this happened. Sure. Because they don't want anything that might give any kind of legitimacy to Maduro. But Donald Trump saying, I'm going to prioritize America first.
Exactly.
And I think he'll deal with Maduro later, maybe not, as you said, in an 80s-style regime change. I think we're over that. But definitely people understand the moral crises there and are on the right side of things. So we'll see.
Yeah.
And he's taking back, and they're taking back these illegals.
You know, Chuck Norris is getting old, so I don't know if we can send him down there again. We got a dozen movies of him going down there. You don't know what I'm talking about, do you? You haven't watched those movies?
I don't.
Chuck Norris, John, yeah. He was spending a lot of time down there.
But I do know Chanley Painter.
Yeah, okay, so all this, another suspected trend.
And you spoke earlier to Patty Morin, who's the mother of Rachel Morin, about that Selena Gomez.
Crying.
The first thing that he did when he came on the scene was to call out the media. And the media, the idea that they would rather focus on sob stories about illegals who are being deported instead of the true horrifying, nightmarish stories about people like her daughter and others who have suffered under these policies as a direct result of the intentional policies of people like Joe Biden. It's just appalling.
And it's wonderful that the White House decided to respond to that post.
Yeah.
Selena Gomez, is a very influential person on Instagram, in pop culture and youth culture, and to respond and to humanize Rachel Morin and all the victims and their families, I think was wildly important. J.D. Vance has also doubled on this, and he has been engaging in, I think, one of the most interesting discussions that I've been seeing online, which is he has been calling out those on the left, like Selena Gomez, and saying, there is an order of love. And love, it's a very, he's bringing Thomas Aquinas back, I think it's kind of great. He's saying, you first start with your immediate family, and then it moves out to your neighborhood, and then it moves out to your town, and then it moves out to, your state, and then it moves out to your country. And then after that, you can care about people, start to care about, prioritize those in other countries. And I think that's what Patty Morin was getting at. You may be of Mexican descent, Selena Gomez, but you are an American, and you don't seem to care about my daughter, who is a fellow citizen. Bravo to her, and bravo to J.D. Vance for articulating. If they haven't seen this debate online, you really should go and look at it, and we should break it down, because I think it's amazing.
Yeah, he's getting flack because he's saying it's actually, in his opinion, a Christian principle as well, and people are arguing against that. Listen, it's called responsibility through proximity. Is the last paper I wrote in college before they told me I could leave that prison over there was about this proximity and the responsibility and the relationship between the two. For me, it was, hey, I just fought 2 wars in the Middle East, a place that I feel like I have no connection to, and now our home is in a place where I don't recognize it. So how can we reorient our priorities? I don't think J.D. Vance is wrong at all, and I love that that her mom brought it in such an eloquent and not hateful way. She said, "Listen, why you're an American? Why don't you care about Americans?"
Yeah.
But we're going to turn from that tragic story. That is hilarious. I watched that, and I was like, Charlie did not understand the assignment. That he just did not.
No, I don't think our guest, who's a big cat person, was
kid
happy with your response.
Yeah.
She thought it was a lot of cat bashing. All right, the study says dog ownership helps exercise the brain, and it increases human-to-human interaction, leading to reduced risks. I believe that.
See? There's
I believe
a
that.
common sense explanation for this. Cats think for themselves. They're predators. Dogs are most of their personalities are to make you happy. Cats are cohabitating with you. Dogs are dependent upon you. You could turn a cat out and there would never be a mouse around your property again. It'd be the happiest cat in the world. Doesn't have to deal with you. It's got food all over the place. Because a barn cat, a mouser, that's the best animal you can have, but you're not going to be friends with it.
Snakes are good. Snakes do a good
You're
job
crazy.
of keeping the mice and rats away.
The only good snake is a dead snake.
I'm a dog person. All right, right now we are moments away from finding out whether or not, you got to help me with this one, Joey.
Punxsutawney Phil.
Punxsutawney Phil. We'll see his shadow.
So will it be 6 more weeks of winter or an early spring?
Well, it's time for another pop culture roundup, and joining me today is our friend from Fox Nation, Abby Hornacek. Abby, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Rachel.
Well, let's get right into it because we have
Let's do
so
it.
much good stuff. Okay, we're going to start off with Melania Trump's stunning White House portrait and the backlash it's getting from, of all places, Vogue.
Oh, my
Abby,
gosh.
what's Vogue saying?
You know, it's so unfortunate because you would think a magazine like Vogue is all about female empowerment through fashion, and instead they're acting like the mean girl. That's a powerful picture.
It's
I'm sorry.
amazing.
Is it not? And it's, you know, it's more unfortunate because of course.
Joe
I like to
Biden.
get, and we're going to need a lot of magic to fix our country after Joe Biden.
So Michelle
I think that's a good
Obama,
thing.
this is what they said about Michelle, as you said, Abby. Michelle Obama poised to become the most transformative first lady in history. That's how Melania.
Let's give Melania a chance to be the most transformative first lady in history, shall we?
And by the way, she's worn tuxedos before. Do we have that picture up, guys? Oh, we couldn't get it. But
I would be
she
intimidated to go
she
into
worn
an
it before.
interview with Melania.
Okay, let's move to this, Abby, because Pete Buttigieg and AOC are now reading the tea leaves here. They've both removed their pronouns from their bios. Why?
You know, I don't know. Pete Buttigieg has had his pronouns in his bios Trump this last election, and Trump is really hammering down on the DEI. I think this is a tactical move. He's
Yeah.
removing it. He's maybe
didn't-
focus on the economy because that's what Michigan voters want. Who knows?
Yeah, well, he threw his husband off of the profile.
No, it's different Twitter
Yeah.
banner.
As Charlie says, replace him with rocks.
But speaking of husband, is Sean upset that he had to remove his pronouns from his bio?
No pronouns ever in that guy's bio. All right, New York Magazine called out for cropping black party goers out of the Image for MAGA Youth cover. So this was a story that they did called, you know, calling the these beautiful MAGA partiers during inauguration the cool by CJ Pearson, a friend of the show, who's black, and they cropped them out. Look, they cropped.
There he is. You know, I did try to give them the benefit of the doubt at first, Rachel, and I was like, okay, CJ's head is turned. Maybe it does show more faces here. But even so, don't you think in your article, at least, you would interview the organizer of the event, especially seeing how much Donald Trump flipped the black vote this election? You have such an opportunity to interview a young conservative black man and ask why that is. Why didn't they take that chance?
Well,
That
here's
opportunity.
here's what CJ said about it, Abby.
They wanted to perpetuate the narrative that the MAGA movement is nothing more than some white supremacist, racist cult, so they deliberately erased the black people from these images.
Here's why I think they did it. They're jealous. Peanut butter and jealous. These people are beautiful, and these losers at New York Magazine wish they were there. All right.
That was the most mom phrase of all time. I love that.
Man, oh, God, great. She's momming me now.
Yeah, I know, it's a great thing.
All right, let's move to this because Charlie wants to pick up Pilates, but a lot of TikTokers or women are going on to TikTok complaining about men in the yoga room. Listen.
I just took a hug.
Keeping men out of women's spaces. That's a theme of this show. Thank you. Out of the Pilates studio. More Fox and Friends coming up. Charlie's in trouble. Go, the little groundhog predicting 6 more weeks of winter.
Yeah, that's Punxsutawney Phil. Let's head back to Pennsylvania where Janice Dean is live.
Janice. Thank you, Janice.
Very sly.
Yeah, he's
That was
very
a very
sly.
sly way to sneak
that's
that
an
question in there.
interesting. It's an interesting line he has to walk, Charlie.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like, how do you not? That's a gimme right there. The Groundhog Day event for any politician.
Well, he'll be there in 4 years. We'll be right here in 4 or 5 minutes. Just stick with us. More Fox.
There's no alternative to eggs. I just want to be clear about that.
Can we have pictures of you and your coop and your chickens, Charlie? I told you to send that in.
We currently have a little bit of a fox problem. Talk about groundhog problem.
Fox and hen house.
Did anyone get into the hen house?
No, they're actually going after our guineas, and we haven't figured out what.
What do you do with your guineas? I mean, I've always heard you use them to like keep ticks out of the yard.
Oh, yeah.
And it's kind of like an alarm when something's around.
Yeah, they're guard birds.
Yeah, you don't do
as
anything
they
else
say.
with them though, right? Or do you?
No, you could. No, some people eat them. They're kind of tough.
Yeah.
We're talking about egg prices, you guys, because yesterday I was on the phone with my son who lives in LA, and he was walking to the store, to the corner store, to buy eggs and other things.
You have to take out a mortgage.
He's walking to the store, and then he gets there and he goes, Mom, guess what? I tried to buy eggs. It was $19 a dozen.
Wow.
He said they were selling them individually at $1.50 as well. That is crazy. So we're going to talk about that a little later in the show.
So does PETA have a problem with eating eggs?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, they said the Punxsutawney should be replaced by a vegan cake, so you don't use eggs.
So they have a
Milk
problem
in it.
even with eggs.
Yeah, eggs and milk.
Because the eggs, I mean, that's kind of,
No wonder they're so unhappy.
That's what it is. It actually should stand for people eating tasty animals, but they're clinically insane, and that's why they don't like to eat tasty animals. This is their news release about the
All
groundhog.
they care about is this one little groundhog that's treated like a little princeling.
Yeah.
And
How do you know if a cake sees its shadow? Like, I don't understand how that works.
yeah, that's a
doesn't
great
make
point,
sense.
actually. That's the best
I
point.
mean, at least get like an animatronic
Yeah.
Punxsutawney Phil, but a cake, that doesn't even make any sense.
But you know who I trust to predict the future?
More than a groundhog?
More than a groundhog. Shannon Bream. She does it every Sunday on Fox News Sunday.
Is that like the best intro you've ever gotten? Shannon Bream, better than a groundhog?
Listen, I am so mad at Phil right now that I might bake
I
him
am
into a
too.
cake. You know, I mean, that might be what he deserves at this point.
I haven't had groundhog.
You've turned decidedly anti-groundhog this morning.
Just
have I.
for today. Well, next year he gets another chance, but for today, Phil's on probation.
Well, you know who else is angry? Canada and Mexico.
Yeah.
Because Donald Trump, of course, has imposed his tariffs 10% on Canadian
As
energy.
you guys have a drug problem, you figure that out. He says you guys stop cooperating and coordinating with Chinese interests that get it across our border. That's a big issue.
Also, I'd mention yesterday we had Phil Flynn, who's an oil expert, who said he believes that any kind of increase in price of cost of goods, as you mentioned, he believes would be offset by the deregulation of oil and the drill policies of Donald Trump. That's one take on it.
Yeah, he wants to get domestic energy production ramped up. It does take some time, but he's very confident and has made a lot of promises about making things easier on that industry. And we all know when fuel prices come down, it impacts everything else. Everything has to be transported, all these groceries and goods and everything else.
Eggs.
So we're seeing some real raw politics in Albany, New York. Democrats are looking to try to keep Elise Stefanik's seat open, keep it from getting refilled after she has been nominated to ambassador to the United Nations. How's all that going to play out?
Speaker Johnson made, but if they hold that off, what do you think would happen? Would you think she would, if they are serious about November potentially, would they still go through with the confirmation? Would there be pressure on her to go back to the House? What do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, I mean, there might be, but I think that train has left the station. I think she's full speed ahead. Now, we do know in Florida they've made progress on 2 of the seats there that they're going to have to work on filling. And so that's already in process, the Matt Gaetz, the Mike Waltz seats. So Florida is moving ahead. So that could add some numbers potentially back into the Republican column. But think about everything they've got to get done. just in the next few weeks. They've got a budget to get done. We run out of government funding March 14th. There's the debt ceiling looming. I mean, there's so many different things that they are going to have to do. And, you know, there are some Republicans who have different ideas, just like within the Democrat Party, there are some fractures and fissures. You got to hold the whole caucus together. And when you only have...
Recognize a $2 bill at all?
I think so.
You don't see him a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. But my dad hands them out to the grandkids all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a good friend, Representative Jim Sensenbrenner. He's my daughter's godfather, and he always has $2
yeah.
bills.
Yeah.
Always.
They're
I
marvelous.
spend them as soon as I get them.
They feature Jefferson. So
It's money. It's worth $2.
that's right.
Well, you better
You can
spend
get
more
half
than...
a cup of coffee with that now.
That's right. You better spend more than $2 on Valentine's Day.
Really?
Charlie and Joey.
Really?
Yeah.
It's less than 2 weeks away.
Really?
And celebrate the love.
Foreign Affairs Committee, and she joins us now. Great to see you. There's a new sheriff in town, isn't there?
No doubt about it. And like Rachel said, if you care about fentanyl, if you care about crime, if you care about migration, you have to care about Latin America. And that's exactly what Marco Rubio is doing. And it's a new dawn for Latin America.
You know, and by the way, the Panamanians have always been a very strong ally of our country. But, however, I have my first interview on Fox Noticias was with the president of Panama. And I've interviewed ministers subsequently from that country. And when you bring up China, they are very quiet. They don't want to talk about China. So you say that.
You know why?
But wait, I know why. And so I guess my question is Donald Trump through Marco Rubio telling the Panamanians, you have to pick either America or China as your ally, and you got to get the Chinese out of the canal?
You know why, Rachel? Because for the last 30 years, we have ignored our backyard. And it's not man's. Not only he speaks the language, but he understands the importance. Because for the average American, Latin America is an American business.
You know, another important visit, Rick Grenell went down to Venezuela, and he brought back 6 Americans following a meeting with the president or with Maduro.
And the planes are coming paid for by Maduro to take back the Nicaragua. Now, what are you suggesting that the Trump administration should do to support the opposition against this illegitimate?
That's a very good question. And, you know, now that you said the opposition, you have... One of the things that people need to understand is that there were elections, and Maduro lost by 70, 80 points. He signed an agreement with Biden saying, quietly, and then bring back democracy to this country, to Venezuela. It's Trump. Only Trump can do that. And for him, it's easy because Maduro shakes. Everyone moves and shakes and trembles and dies, and it just faints when Trump calls. Hey, I'm telling you, hey, I know I'm the chairman of the Western Hemisphere Subcommittee in the House Foreign Affairs Committee. I know my people. Trump can do it.
Congresswoman Salazar, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Congresswoman.
Thanks to you. To you.
To the store to buy eggs, and he's like, he's on the phone with me. He's like, I can't believe it. It's $19. I thought I was not hearing that. $19 a dozen, $1.50 an egg. They were selling him individually.
Well, not only has the avian influenza or the bird flu taken about 17 million hens just November and December alone, but the Department of Agriculture has ordered the killing or the culling of about 150 million hens just to try to contain the spread of bird flu. So yes, the prices of eggs are already up because of inflation, but we're going to see the prices go up even more because there's just not enough hens right now.
It's so sad because it's the perfect food.
I love eggs. You know, I am a hen owner. I have hens. You have hens. And so, you know,
does Charlie.
But not yes, that's right. But not everyone can have their own hens. So we have to talk about how can we still get protein in the grocery store when things are so expensive?
Yeah.
Okay, so animal protein by far is my favorite source of protein. It has all of the complete proteins, the amino acids, everything you need for overall wellness, muscle building. So ground beef, ground turkey, these are more cost-friendly ways, low fat, high protein, also has selenium and other very essential nutrients in it.
Grass-fed if you can.
Absolutely. Again, they can be expensive, so whatever animal protein you can get that's cost-effective, that's the one you want. It's very good for you. Moving on now to, I actually love to go to the canned seafood, canned tuna, canned salmon, Sardines. So canned tuna is incredible. It's very low cost. It's a great source of protein. Omega-3s, it can be high in mercury. So you want to get the tuna light. Salmon, you don't have the same concerns with mercury, but it can have a lot of sodium in it. So you want to make sure you're getting low sodium. And I know sardines aren't for everyone, but sardines are incredible. Not only does it have your omegas and it has the high protein, it also has vitamin D and a high level of calcium. So it's really good for your bone health.
I love sardines, but I also love this canned salmon over a salad. Maybe put a little bit of mayonnaise in it.
Yeah, you can make
capers.
it.
Oh my
you can
God,
make
so
like
good.
a salmon or tuna salad. You can also do for like the kids, like the tuna melts, where you
Sure.
put some cheese in it. Excellent sources of proteins. Keeping with the animal proteins, I love plain Greek yogurt, high in protein, not as much as you're going to get from your canned tunas or your actual like ground beef, but still a good amount. And it's so versatile. You can have it for breakfast with your berries. That's what I like to do. You can whip it up and make it into a vegetable dip. You can also bake with it. It's a good, healthier alternative for heavy cream, and it's high in protein. So very versatile. And that date you see on there when it says sell by, that doesn't mean that's how long it's safe for. That's just how long the manufacturer guarantees its effectiveness or its, the value of it. So that you can keep it a little bit longer, 1 to 2 weeks. Obviously, if you see mold or it doesn't smell good, that's a good indicator not to eat it. And then moving to more of the plant-based proteins, the lentils, black beans. Black beans are one of my favorite things. Good source of protein, also high in fiber. So not only is it low calorie, high protein, high fiber, it makes you feel full, and it actually helps promote weight loss because you tend to eat less when you fill yourself up with black beans.
I love that you included lentils. Spanish people, we eat a lot of lentils, sopa de lentejas. I mean, so good. But also, you could get this through garbanzos and hummus.
Absolutely. So these plant-based protein sources are incredible for you. Obviously, they're much lower in protein. Some of the other things, you have to eat a higher quantity to get the same equivalent. But one important thing to know is it's an incomplete protein, so you may not be getting all of your vitamins in it. So you may want to talk about maybe vitamin supplements in that case.
Which is why we need egg prices to come down, because eggs are the perfect food.
Love them.
All right, Dr. Sapphire, this is great stuff. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
You got it. All right, Joey?
Well, she just didn't need
It's not
Batman.
as fun. It's not as fun to buy yourself flowers
agree.
or hold your own hand. What?
Yeah.
Like,
Is that really what it says?
yes. I think it's like a girl boss message that's not working.
You say that like I listen to the words. I don't know.
I get it. It's catchy.
Yeah,
but,
it's just playing in the background.
but yeah.
I don't get to listen to music anymore anyway. My daughter controls the radio.
Yeah, I
All
get
right.
that.
Well, we're gonna get into some stuff here. So Trump's team is championing America First, the America First message, as Secretary of State Marco Rubio preps to meet with Panama's president today during his first official trip abroad. He's down in Panama over the showdown for the canal there, and envoy Richard
It's a
Grinnell.
different posture, and it is an American First posture. It's a recognition that our neighbors should be some of our most important allies. And the idea that we have a failed narco state to our south should be a real problem. And we were talking about it during the break earlier. Think about all of the investments that we have made around the world in far-flung places that many of us can't find on a map. If we had made those investments in places that were more immediately important to us, like our neighbors or Central or South America, we might have a different situation in terms of illegal immigration and drugs.
Absolutely. But we had Representative Salazar on from the great state of Florida. She's on the House Foreign Affairs Committee. And she talked about Trump's new focus on Latin America and how that's being received by those countries. Listen. Bravo to that. So a lot of symbolism with having Marco Rubio.
I dare say you couldn't have said it better yourself.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Yeah, we definitely share a lot of common ideas there, me and the Congresswoman from Florida. I love how during the interview she referred to the Secretary of State as her constituent.
Yeah. The former senator of Florida, who is now her constituent in Florida.
I love it.
That was good.
She's a lot of fun.
Like the glowing review I got from my friend of you said, that woman's a little firecracker, but she's very knowledgeable. So a friend of mine who doesn't watch Fox very often said the woman.
That's what she said. They said about me.
That's what he said about you.
Well, you can say that about the Congresswoman from Florida as well, Salazar.
That was a good interview.
Well, meanwhile, among Democrats, they have just picked a new leader of their party. But it's kind of funny because, of course, it's a white guy. It's kind of like when they after all of the DEI.
Much easier to be a conservative, isn't it? I mean, this is so confusing. You're not. What the? I don't think he knows what he said. Does he?
You don't need to adjust your TV. It really was that crazy.
The party of many genders, basically what they're saying is they created some rule that said, hey, we got to have as many women as we have men. And then come along the I don't knows. And so it's like, well, do we have to have as many I don't knows as we do women and men? Or, how does this count? Does one I don't know count as both one man and one woman? And, there's that, I guess you call it a GIF that you can find on your phone. And it's a movie character and all these math equations going around his head and he just looks confused. And that's how I felt the entire time he was talking just now.
Yeah.
And apparently that's how I looked.
That's how I felt, actually. I think I had all those questions. It's just no wonder they can't get anything done because they can't get past the most basic thing, which is, of course, biological sex and who is who. And they want to, create these crazy rules to make sure everyone feels equitable within the party.
And let's be clear, they don't know what they're talking about either.
Yeah.
It confuses even them. And that's what, because none of it has anything to do with anything real. It only has to do with one thing, and that is so that they can call you, their opponents, a racist. That's all they want to do. And they go through all of this so that they can just shut us up by saying, you're racist or you're anti-whatever. And then before you know it, they're putting biological males in girls' locker rooms.
Yeah, I've seen
Yeah, it's
IKEA
crazy.
instructions that were easier to understand.
No question about it. What I think is interesting is, I'm so glad we played that first, and kudos to our producers and for you who saw that clip, because I think it really, it isn't just stupid and confusing. It really feels very dated. And I do believe what we were seeing, on pop culture, we did a segment on that new article in the New York Magazine about, the Cool Kids Club. And what it is actually that liberals are getting worried that conservatives right now, in this moment that we are in, are becoming the tastemakers, are setting the rules. They used to have all these gatekeepers in Hollywood, but because of social media, they can't control the script anymore. Thus, you get Donald Trump, you get Melania Trump, and everyone finally, waking up and going, wait a minute, this is the most fashionable, gorgeous woman that we've ever had as First Lady. And then you have all these young people flocking to the Republican Party, to the GOP MAGA movement. And you see that cover. I wish we could put that cover up because it shows just,
that
how
they
it's all
had to
changed.
crop in order to get minorities out of the picture.
Right, they tried to, exactly. That MAGA is this multicultural,
such a lie.
Multi-ethnic movement. But another thing that's happening is J.D. Vance, who is, comes from, I guess he's a millennial. And now we're seeing, to show you how much we've shifted, we're seeing debates between Gen Z, Gen X, and aging boomers about Thomas Aquinas. I mean, if that's not like a cultural shift, I don't know what is. Listen to J.D. Vance talk to Sean Hannity about this very Christian principle, he says, and I agree, on the order of love. Watch.
So look, this kind of controversy popped up in different places. There's this someone on social media I follow that lives in Atlanta, Hannah Cox, and she ventures right, but she's more down the middle. And she took an exception to the idea that he's saying this is what Christianity is. I didn't see it that way, because if you look at her post, there's like one person quotes scripture to say one thing, and another person quotes scripture to say, no, it means this, and it means that. He's not trying to create a religious debate or even ideological debate. What he's saying is really simple, which is this idea that your charity, your giving, your concern is related to proximity. Your responsibility to others is related to how they affect your life and how you affect them. I think we govern that way. We have local government, state government, federal government, and I've always believed your highest taxes should go locally, not federally. And it's not because I don't love the rest of the country. It's because that's my life. That's where I live. That's the water I drink from that utility company. And whether you ascribe it to your personal Christian beliefs or whether you see that link or not, this idea of responsibility through proximity, I think, is just really common sense and what this country is founded on.
Charlie, does it start at home? Charity?
Oh, absolutely. And I think the biggest cop-out for people to not care is to sort of intellectualize it and say that, oh, I care about, these people that are 1,000 miles away, when you actually have people immediately right next to you in your own sphere who need help. And it's a pretty dangerous ideology to think that that's more important than what you can actually in your own life do. And it's why, church is important, is because it's your neighbors and you're all gathering there, and you recognize that somebody is in need in your own
community,
vicinity, in your own, yeah, exactly.
That's the word.
Just to make sure that we're not making this up about liberals caring more about people far away, there's this heat map that was developed, theological, but we're ordered that way. This is a natural order. I mean, I remember Mother Teresa once saying, people will always ask her about world peace, and she goes, "You want world peace?
Yeah.
Go home and love your family." That's how we get world peace. And I think that's the message. J.D. Vance's interview and all the stuff he's on Twitter arguing it has been brilliant. This is a man who understands culture and knows how to articulate it much better than I have. So go and watch those.
I don't know. You're dropping Thomas Aquinas at 9:14
casually
on a Sunday morning.
I like it.
I say that's pretty forward thinking there.
Yeah, pretty based. as the kids say. All right, turning now to your headlines. President Trump ordering